Let me tell you about one of the most bizarre and tragicomic events in military history, the Battle of Karánsebesch in 1788. It has a story so strange, it almost sounds like a joke, yet it really happened, and the consequences were deadly serious. At the time, the Habsburg Empire under Emperor Joseph II was engaged in a war against the Ottoman Empire, allied with Russia under Catherine the Great. Joseph II was a well-meaning and enlightened ruler, known for his reforms and attempts to modernize his empire, but when it came to warfare, he was not exactly a military genius. Still, he insisted on personally overseeing the campaign, sending a large multinational army into what is now Western Romania. This army was huge, over 100,000 men, but also a chaotic patchwork of ethnic groups: Germans, Hungarians, Croats, Italians, Slovaks, Romanians, Czechs, and more. They spoke different languages, followed different customs, and crucially, could hardly understand each other or their officers. This led to constant confusion and mistrust within the ranks. On the night of September 17, 1788, a detachment of Austrian cavalry scouts, the Hussars, was sent ahead near the Tomish River, close to the town of Karánsebesch. Their mission was to look for Ottoman troops, but instead, they found none. What they did find was a group of Romani traders selling strong schnapps. The exhausted soldiers, after weeks of marching and meager supplies, gladly accepted the offer and began drinking. Soon, other units, including infantry, arrived and wanted some of the alcohol too. A quarrel broke out over the schnapps, tensions rose, and suddenly a shot was fired. That single gunshot triggered chaos. In the darkness and confusion, the rest of the army thought the Ottomans were attacking. Panic spread rapidly. Shouts of the Turks are attacking, rang out. But because many soldiers spoke different languages, many either misunderstood or couldn't understand the warning. The camp erupted into disorder as units began firing at anything that moved. Soldiers fired on their comrades, mistaking them for enemies. Horses galloped wildly through the camp. Cannons fired into the darkness, and some troops, trying to defend themselves, even destroyed their own bridges and supplies to block the enemy. The situation became so out of control that Emperor Joseph II himself rode out to restore order, but in the chaos, he was thrown from his horse and had to be evacuated in a wagon. His fall was seen by many soldiers as a sign that the battle was lost. For hours, the army fought and fled, shooting and trampling each other, completely unaware that no Ottoman forces were near. When the real Ottoman army arrived 2 days later, they found a bloodied, ruined camp with hundreds of Austrian dead and wounded victims, not of an enemy assault, but of their own panic and confusion. Estimates say between 500 and 1,200 Austrian soldiers died or were injured in the friendly fire melee. The incident was so humiliating that it was barely mentioned in official records and was long regarded as a legend or myth until historians pieced it together from archival evidence. Why did this happen? Several factors played a role. The language barrier caused crucial orders to be misunderstood or not heard at all. Alcohol lowered discipline and escalated tensions. The army lacked cohesive leadership, and Joseph II was not experienced in battlefield command. The single gunshot sparked fear and paranoia. The multinational army's lack of unity and trust made it vulnerable to chaos. Today, the Battle of Karánsebesch is remembered as one of history's most absurd military disasters, a striking lesson in how poor communication, lack of discipline, and panic can destroy an army from within. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest threat to an army isn't the enemy on the battlefield, but confusion, fear, and miscommunication among its own ranks.